just I don't think those who sing or are connected to Indian music need any introduction to Lata Mangeshkar. They know Lata Mangeshkar and her name really, really well. However, for youngsters who are born in this country or those who are uh, new to Indian music, for them, introduction to an artist like Lata Mangeshkar is extremely important. We will continue to introduce artists and musicians and any important personalities related to our culture, our thought process, our music, and our lifestyle through the year, through our learning journey. Now, speaking about Lata Mangeshkar and putting Lata Mangeshkar in the context of what she did other than singing. And it's very important for children to know what it means to be famous. It's not about earning money, it's not about earning fame. But Lata Mangeshkar and many of her contemporaries who worked really hard to attain the status that they had, they became an institution by themselves. So if we if we think about this, artists like Lata Mangeshkar and others in a little bit of retrospective, her music, her singing has influenced several generations. She aspired dreams, she aspired ideas, she aspired and inspired people to get into music. Everyone wanted to sing like Lata Mangeshkar. Some of them, some musicians, made singing and music their profession. They earned their livelihood singing Lata Mangeshkar songs. And as Indians traveled and migrated out of India, her name, her fame, and love for her music grew across the world. So we shouldn't count this as one artist passed away. She was an institution and she inspired many to take on and learn music. She was an entrepreneur because she inspired others to become artists. People learned music and they earned their livelihood singing her songs. So she created a huge impact. And that's why she was an institution. If we think about it in business terms, she helped people earn their daily bread, even without meeting them once in their life. So that's why artists like her is so important. She was Mozart of our time. So today, Isha and Ira, many of you already know Ira. She is my younger daughter. She plays violin. She sings. She has also learned a little bit of tabla. She is also learning Bharatanatyam. So Ira, you have seen her around, and then Isha. Isha is is our older child. Uh, engineering degree from University of Michigan. She's an engineer, and she works for Disney Plus. So Isha is here for since she's working remote, and Isha has also learned vocal. She plays cello. She learned Kathak. So they both have grown up singing Lata Mangeshkar songs and listening to Lata Mangeshkar songs. So this is very close to their heart. So they are going to present their perspective about Lata Mangeshkar. It's very important that we hear from today's generation so our next generation can relate to this better. So it's their point of view. And we would actually like to see this progressing further with our other students, and we would want everybody to have this opportunity to present, prepare themselves for presentation. It's part of their personality development, and it's also part of their growth. So we would like to encourage this activity more and more. So today we will start with Isha and Ira because this was a short notice. They are going to go ahead, but we would like to continue this with our other students and even adults, parents, whoever want to join. So we will dive a little bit deeper into what her music means and the kind of songs she sang. So let's hear them out. Thank you. And at the end, you can also ask questions if you want. So Isha and Ira, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Mom. uh, hi everyone. I'm Isha. Like my mom said, I'm Vaishali Auntie and Gulib Uncle's elder daughter.
I'm Ira, I'm the younger one.
Today we're talking about Lata Mangeshkar, who was popularly known as the Nightingale of India. She very recently passed away earlier this month, so we wanted to make this first talk about Lata Mangeshkar because she is a pioneer in Indian music and especially in Bollywood. So for this presentation, we'll be going through her background and her career as well as uh, doing some vocal analysis, some analysis on her voice, and an analysis on just one piece out of the tens of thousands of pieces that she's done, or tens of thousands of songs that she sung throughout her multi-decade career, as well as some of the various accomplishments that she had, just some of the many of them. And then we will also have open discussion at the end. So Lata Mangeshkar was born as Hema Mangeshkar to Dinanath and Shivanti Mangeshkar in Indore. This is very important, she was the eldest sibling of Meena Khadikar, Asha Bhosle, Usha Mangeshkar, and Hridyant Mangeshkar. Her father was a classical singer as well and theater actor. And at the age of 5, she learned music from her father, who was a disciple of the Gwalior Gharana. Ira will talk about that a little bit more later. She was also trained by Aman Ali Khan Sahib and Amanat Khan, and she sang her very first song at the age of 13, Bollywood song at the age of 13 after her father passed away from a heart attack. So that last bullet point is really important because as the eldest daughter, the responsibility of her family fell on her, so she started singing to take up that responsibility.
So the Bollywood Gharana, well, first of all, we want to make a connection between Bollywood music and Hindustani music. So Lata Mangeshkar started learning from her father at the age of 5, and that really helped her with her Bollywood career because she was classically trained, as a lot of the other singers. So Bollywood Gharana is primarily Khayal Gayan, and we talk about that at Music Guru too. We learn Chota Khayals, which we call bandishes. So they're normally faster compositions, but traditionally the Vilambat or Bada Khayal comes before in a performance, and then the bandish. So Bollywood Gharana is also the home of the Vistar structure, and the bandishes are purely in the home rag. There's no tiro bhav, which means no additional swars outside of the rag are used to improvise. So they also have bol alap and bol tan. Bol, as most people know, means to speak, so they use the words to improvise instead of just the swars. So some famous pioneers of Bollywood Gharana include Pandit Vishnu Digambar Paluskar and his son Pandit D.V. Paluskar.
So, as mentioned before, Lata Mangeshkar started her career in singing at the age of 13. In that early time, there was a shortage of singing opportunities while she was trying to support her siblings and her mother, so she turned to acting. However, she was not quite a fan of acting. She briefly she briefly acted in 8 films, which is more than probably any of us have acted in, both Marathi and Hindi films. Um, Specifically, in an interview, she said she felt like a doll on being told "Abhi tum haso, abhi tum asu bahao," which just means that directors and whoever was telling her to act and how to act, they quite literally were telling her, "Okay, now you have to laugh, and at this time stamp, you have to cry," and it's emotions. You can't have it just happen, instantaneously. So she didn't really like acting that much. But then she did get to do playback eventually. At the age of 20, she had her first huge success with Aayega Aane Wala from the movie Mahal in 1949. And before then, the characters or actors in the movies, actresses in the movies would incorrectly be credited for the music that was sung in those movies. At times, too, some of those actors and actresses themselves would sing the songs for those movies. So when this song came out, All India Radio, which is India's basically the main radio show in India, All India Radio was flooded with calls from so many different people to find out who this singer is. So I guess I can, in Aayega Aane Wala, you can see Ashok Kumar, who is actually Kishore Kumar's oldest brother. He listens to this woman sing and is absolutely mesmerized. So I think it very perfectly describes how everybody felt singing this song. So after her early career kicked off, she sang tens of thousands of songs through the decades. So these are just some of the many, many, many songs that she sang throughout the seven decades that her career lasted. So there's Uthai Ja Unke Sitam from Andaz from 1949. Jago Mohan Pyare from Jagte Raho in 1956. A very popular song Pyar Kiya To Darna Kya from Mughal Azam 1960. Jhoot Bole Kawa Kate from the movie Bobby. Ek Radha Ek Meera from Ram Teri Ganga Meli 1985. And then also very, very popular Tujhe Dekha To Ye Jana Sanam from DDLJ Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge from 1995. And then one of her very, very last songs from the last movie she sang in, Virzada, Tere Liye in 2004. And then she retired after that. So that was just briefly what her career and her background looked like. Since this is Music Guru and we're here to learn music, first I'm going to do some analysis of her voice because it's really important to understand voice culture and voice texture, because each of us has our own voice texture that we should embrace and learn about in order to become better vocal performance musicians. So in Western music, there is the concept of there's basically when you have your voice, it gets categorized into different groups. So one of those, and depending on the vocal range, so the highest vocal range is a soprano. So soprano, they sing very, very high notes. So to give you some perspective, Ira, can you give me a C4? So that highest note is a C6, so she could sing that note very naturally, very easily. And I bet she could sing even higher than that too. And because of that, she was nicknamed the Melody Queen. Her voice was very melodious, and her high range basically gave made it clear that she was the Melody Queen. And her voice dominated so much. She sang so many songs that it set precedence for the Indian feminine identity in India. As someone described, her voice was the ultimate measure of sweetness in a woman's voice. So they describe, a high pitched, powerful voice as of a woman who is sweet. So a very clear example of her signature high range is from A Ablor Chale, and actually we found this song just over dinner, and one of us had mentioned it while we were talking about Lata Mangeshkar, so we were all very enthralled by her singing. So as you could tell, that second to last note, or one of the very last notes, was very high, but she could sing it with great ease. So knowing what her range is, there was a debate over Lata Mangeshkar's voice as a falsetto, and a falsetto is essentially an artificially high-pitched voice. This is typically more for male vocalists than female vocalists, but someone had actually described her voice as a falsetto, and there was some backlash against that person as well. But to be very clear, that was her natural range. She did not sing artificially in this voice. Otherwise, what you heard earlier would not be as natural as powerful as it was. Because of the thinness in her vocal timbre, she was initially rejected by a mainstream producer. But then as she sang more songs and as she became more and more popular, her voice became consistent with the image of ideal femininity for South Asians. And her own sisters, Asha Bhosle, her voice was more associated with breaking feminine norms and being more open. So some examples of Asha Bhosle's songs include Dam Mara Dam and Ye Mera Dil and many, many more. So the contrast between their voice textures did create some friction between them when it came to who is singing which song and who will get to sing which song as they work together in the industry and work with different producers. Lata Mangeshkar did definitely butt heads with multiple people throughout the industry as well, but that enabled her to establish herself as a dominating and powerful vocalist in the Bollywood industry. So this is from an associate professor in film and media studies at the University of Pittsburgh, Nipa Majumdar. One can read Lata's monopoly in terms of clean lines of her thin, higher-pitched voice replacing other voices such as those of Nurjahan and Shamshad Begum, who had a greater density and lower pitch to their voices. So Nipa Majumdar basically juxtaposes the higher pitched, associates the higher pitched voice with clean and idealistic behaviors with more lower pitched versus the lower pitched dense, heavy voices with maybe not non-idealistic, but not as pure necessarily as Lataji's voice. So, but the one thing to know is that regardless of the voice texture, they were all singing in their authentic, natural voices. So as you go on to sing and learn vocal performance, you should also sing in your natural voice without trying to sound like one person or the other. Ira, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, well, Lata Mangeshkar's voice was naturally high pitched and thin, and she never tried to sound exactly like any other singers, even though there were some before her who she tried. Maybe she looked up to them and she was inspired, but she never tried to mimic the exact voice of anyone else. Here's the current problem: there are way too many people who alter their voices to sound delicate and thin more than they actually are, and it in contrast, it doesn't make them sound better at all. It actually makes them sound artificial.
Yes, so
And the importance is in Lata Mangeshkar's dedication and her focus and her riyaz on her own authentic voice. So that's where we need to learn, not to adjust our voice to sound exactly like her.
So I would like to add something here. We have to also consider how the recordings are getting done today versus how recordings were getting done in those days, and how much efforts those artists in those days had to put in their recording. As example, sometimes in class we tell you all to record your either keyboard or your audio and send it to us. And it's extremely easy for all of you because we have the audio app in our phone. So we record easily, we send it out, we share. Even we are singing on stage and somebody records and then sends it without thinking about how the actual quality is. And when we hear our own voice recording, we will I can definitely guarantee you all that after learning a little bit of music, you will find um, uh, things that you can correct. Not your voice, but your tuning. You can correct your own tune or your own pitch, or you can get more in tune. It's in sur as you record and hear your own voice. So recording is actually a learning mechanism. Now, how recording was a learning thing for Lata Mangeshkar or Muhammad Rafi or Noor Jahan or even Kishore Kumar and everybody else. Initially, this digital recording is phone recording started just probably last in 10, 12 years. But initially, there were vinyl records. And even in those days, the vinyl records were in 1940s and 50s, all the musicians who play in the song, them and the singer, they are supposed to come together in one room, and the recording has to happen on the vinyl or the plastic. So if somebody makes mistake, whether it's Lata Mangeshkar or even a single musician, they have to throw away that vinyl and then start recording again. So to make sure that there is no wastage and there is no re-recording over and over, they practiced their songs so much, so many times, and that practice made their singing perfect. Lata Mangeshkar, Muhammad Rafi, Kishore Kumar, Sonu Nigam, and all those, they did not become perfect in a day. Singing or learning music is like nurturing plant. When you put when you seed a tree, that tree takes 10 years, 15 years, 30, 40 years to grow to its full capacity. Music is a lifelong journey. So if we don't adopt shortcuts, then I think we can grow bigger and better and come to our full maturity and full potential over a few years. So it's not that we have to take 40 years to learn music, but we should at least be patient for 4 or 5 years because it doesn't happen overnight.
well said. And I'm going to turn it over to Ira, who is going to talk about do some analysis on the song.
Okay, so kuhu kuhu bole koyalia. Uh, I think the meaning involves musical sounds made by a bird. So actually, there's no real video recording of this song because the original song was in Telugu, and Muhammad Rafi and Lata Mangeshkar created a duet Hindi version of this song, which actually became more successful than the Telugu one. So we're going to talk about Rag Mala, which is a mixture of rags within a piece, and it has 3 antras, 1 sthais, and each of the 4 parts are in a different rag. So some of you may recognize a few of these rags, especially Yemen. So we'll listen to the sthai first, which is in Rag Sohani. Okay, so that much was in Rag Sohani. I'm going to sing the Aron Avro once, just so you guys better understand it. Sa ga ma dha ni sa sa ni dha ni dha ma ga ma re sa. The Gayan Samai, which is the best time for the rag to be sung, is the 4th prahar of night, or 4th part of the night. It's a Sandhi Prakash rag, and the time is normally 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., so early hours of the morning or late hours of the night. And the notes in this rag are primarily in the Madhya, which is middle saptak, and Tar saptaks, which is the higher one. The Vadi swar is Dha, Samvadi swar is Ga, the That is Marva, which means there's a Komal, Re, and Divrama. And the Vadi swar, if you don't already know, is the most important swar in a rag. Samvadi is second most important. And in this rag, we were talking about it yesterday, there's a very loud Shuddha Da. So when we give you those notes about each rag, we don't pull a Vadi swar out of a hat and write it there. It actually has significance. And in this case, in the very first line,
Yes.
sa ga ma dha ni sa. So the bole koelia ma bole koelia ma dha ni sa ni re sa. So the shuddha da is actually important in this rag. So pay attention to the body and Samvaad swars. That's the point. Okay, next section.
Okay, so this part this is the first antra and it's in Rag Bahar.
हो सकता है देश राज में बादरिया का शाम शाम मुख झूम लिया हो सकता है देश राज में बादरिया का शाम शाम मुख झूम लिया हो तोरी तोरी मन पंछी उड़े मैं ना डूबूं
Okay, this is Rag Bahar. Sa re sa ma pa ma ga ma dha ni sa ni pa ma ga ma re sa ni sa. So as the name implies, this rag paints the season of spring and it's very close to nature. The Gayan Samad is the second prahar of night. The Vadi Swar is Ma, Samvadi Swar is Sa, and this is in Tat Gafi. We also teach Rag Gafi, I think, in level 3. So it has Komal Gandhar, which is Ga, and Nishad, which is Ni.
And then the second antra is in Rag Jaunpuri.
गंगा से मिलके मन ही मन में मुस्काई छाई चंद्रिका देख खाई बिरही चलो का सुख सरकावन बिरही चलो का सुख सरकावन साई साई फूलों की छटा घूंघट हटा
Okay, this is Jaunpuri. Sa re ma pa dha sa ni da pa ma ga re sa an Uttarang Pradhan Rag, and what that means is, well, we know in a saptak there's sa re ga ma pa dha ni. So in Hindustani classical music, we can divide that into a lower region and upper region. The lower region, sa re ga ma pa, is Purvang Pradhan. The upper region can go from ma to the upper tar sa, and that's Uttarang Pradhan. So the Vadi Swar is Komal Dha, which is in the upper region of the rag, which is why, this is why we call it Uttarang Pradhan rag. And the notes are mainly in Madhyan Tar subtext. As most of you heard, Lata Mangeshkar did a very high tan at the beginning that extended to tar ma. So this rag paints bhakti, which is devotional, and shringar, which is a romantic ras. And the Gayan Samai is the second prahar of morning. Vadi, I said, is Komal Dha. Samvadi is Komal Ga. Can you play the beat that for a second then? So the Komal Dha, which is the Vadi swar, is still very loud at this part. In the first line, Chandrika dekh chai, diya Chandrika dekh chai. So the dekh has the swar dha, so that's why you get a certain sensation when you listen to that. So again, the body swar is still important. And the tat is asavari. It has komal ga, dha, and ni.
And this is the third antara, which is in Rag Yaman, which hopefully most of you should know.
मन भाई पियसमा कमल कमल निमिले हर रात मन भाई पियसमा कमल कमल निमिले हर रात मन भाई
Right, so that was the end of the song. They ended it on a light note in Yaman. Can you play that? So most of you have done this rag already. If not, you're going to listen to it now. Re ga ma dha ni sa sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa. So I'll start with the tat this time. This is in tat kalyan, which means there's a tivra madhyam. That's normally how people know this rag because it's the first one we teach that has a tivra ma. The Gayan Sama is, we call it pratham prahar, early hours of the night. The Vadi swar is ga, Samvadi is ni. I'm not going to emphasize the Vadi swar this time, but since it's Yaman, most of you, if you've done Yaman, you know that almost every composition in Yaman you've done probably has nire ga or nire sa or both. So in this case, Sara Sarat Man Bhai Priyatama Nire Ga Gare Nire Sa. So we just picked that example from this rag and from this song, and it already has a defining feature of Yaman, so I'll just recognize that.
And I'll add one thing too. If you noticed in the rag, or in the not in the rag, in the tan, they literally do the aro, niregama dhanisa, sa re sa dhanisa, whatever. But they do the aro at the start of that tan. So just in that one song, there is so much to learn, and as my mom mentioned earlier in the presentation, um, she would not have been able to do any of this. She would not have been able to sing any of this without her Hindustani classical base as a foundation, and that allowed her to sing tens of thousands of songs and mesmerize billions of people, literally, with her voice. Apart from her wonderful singing, as a part of her wonderful singing, she had a lot of incredible accomplishments. She did not actually receive a formal education, but she received six honorary doctoral degrees, including from Pune University and within the United States, New York University. She also received the three highest civilian awards in India, which are Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, and Bharat Ratna awards. And she also received 5 different Lifetime Achievement Awards, spanning from Filmfare to ZTV and various other organizations. She also held 2 Guinness Book of World Records as the most recorded artist. This was contested by Mohammad Rafi at one point as well, but she sang tens of thousands of songs. So these are just some of the sources that we used for our presentation, and we wanted to now open up for discussion and questions. Before going into these questions, I have a spontaneous question. I want to know if anybody noticed in the song Kuhu Kuhu Bole Koyalia, was anybody able to figure out what dal was the song in? What dal was being used in the song? Can anyone tell us?
Any guesses? Just shout it out.
Come on, unmute. You have learned that tal. It's very highly noticeable. That's the first thing you notice in the song.
Most of you should know this. At least most of you should know the name of the tal once we say it. You'll be like, oh, that one.
Tintal?
Exactly.
Good job.
Yes, good job, Arya. Yeah, it's tal teen tal. So that was my only question. Does anyone have any favorite songs by Lata Mangeshkar?
I think we recently learned one song, right? And I guess Anushka is on call. Anushka, are you there?
Okay, can I go back to another question about... Oh, yeah, hi.
Yes, which song did we learn?
I know one that I learned and it's new one, I think. Ute Sab Ke Kadam.
Yes.
Can I go back to another question about about the tal? Can anyone tell me which syllable the sum is on, or when does the tabla start playing for the first beat? Kuhu kuhu bole koyaliya. Which syllable does the sum fall on? Sum is the first beat. Any guesses? It's kind of a more difficult question.
That's a tough question,
It will be easy on that.
Well,
And जर तुझे देखा तो जाना सनम, we learned तुम ही हो माता.
oh yeah.
We learned that.
So going back to Ira's question,
So it starts on the le of bole. Kuhu kuhu. So kuhu u kuhu u bo da din din da din din da.
Yeah.
That was a more difficult question.
Yes, that was a difficult question for sure.
So I think I see Anushka joining. Anushka, I don't want to put you on spot, but just in case, if you want, you can try the song.
That's a good song.
That's a very nice song,
Akela
Prithviraj.
Road.
Beautiful song.
Lag Ja Gale.
Lag Ja
It's also-
Gale, yes.
Both Lag Ja Gale songs are good. The Rafi and Lata Mangeshkar. Two completely different.
Yes, sir. Rafi one is Lag Ja Gale, Dil Ruba. Yes.
Anushka is joining from her phone. Just give her a minute or so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Anushka sings beautifully. I have heard her, just glimpse of her voice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, to introduce Anushka, Anushka learned Carnatic for a very long time, and now she's also learning Hindustani because, and she's also Ajib Dasta. Yes, very nice. She's making connection between all different Indian music styles and popular music. And actually, Bollywood has Bollywood is hugely influenced by Indian classical, even Carnatic. Of course, that's our natural music, our original music style. But Bollywood has also been deeply influenced by other music styles. In 2000, I think 2011, we had done a Diwali dinner performance at Bharatiya Temple, which we called Akshay Patra. And the reason why we called it Akshay Patra was we had demonstrated through that Bollywood performance, we had demonstrated how world music has influenced Bollywood. And we have presented songs accordingly. So Anushka is here. Thank you for joining and thank you for volunteering, Anushka. It's really nice. So do you want to try that song? Go ahead.
1 minute.
Sure.
उठे सबके कदम देखो रम पम पम आज ऐसे गीत गाया करो कभी खुशी कभी गम तररम पम पम हंसो और हंसाया करो वो प्यारे दिन और वो प्यारी रातें याद है हमें वो मुलाकातें नहीं कोई गम मुझे नहीं है गिला जिंदगी की राह में मिला है जब से तू मेरी हमदम शबनम हम है और तुम शुदा बन जाया करो कभी खुशी कभी गम तररम पम पम हंसो और हंसाया करो हंसो और हंसाया करो.
That was wonderful. And see, this song has so many words. Sometimes when we sing, we have to master the words first, because if we master the words correctly, then we can sing confidently and we can control our breathing. And Anushka, this was wonderful. Hindi is not even your language. You learned words, you are pronouncing them correctly, and you sang so well. Very nice. I'm so happy. Good job.
Thank you.
So there is one more song like that. While we were talking about Lata Mangeshkar in our, and we love to hear songs when we are eating dinner together. So there was one more song that we heard. It was from movie Chandni. I'm very bad at remembering words. Those who come to my class, they all know. Isha, do you remember the words? From Chandni, movie Chandni? We heard Lata Mangeshkar's live show.
What did we listen to?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's let me check.
मेरे हाथों में.
Yeah, that's very happy. Yes,
Oh.
that's right.
Yeah.
And we heard, and I'll definitely share link with everybody. It's a beautiful song, and Lata Mangeshkar sang it live. She must be 75 plus at that time, because or at least 70 plus, because that performance happened in Hyderabad in I think early 2000s. So you can see there is a huge orchestra behind her, but how she is dominating the orchestra, she is thorough with words. It's a wonderful song. So let me, I'll paste it in the chat. You can listen to it, and especially the live performance.
So it looks like Mihir wanted to sing something. Mihir, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and unmute and maybe tell us which song it is first and then sing.
It's actually one in this presentation. तुझे देखा तो ये जाना सनम.
Okay.
Alright. Can I? तुझे देखा तो ये जाना सनम, प्यार होता है दीवाना सनम, अब यहाँ से कहाँ जाए हम, तेरी बाहों में मर जाए हम.
Nice.
आँखें मेरी सपने तेरे, दिल मेरा यादें तेरी. ओ तेरा मैं क्या, सब कुछ तेरा, जान तेरी सांसें तेरी, तेरी आँखों में क्या सुन तेरे आए मेरी, मुस्कुरा के यही सारे गम, तुझे देखा तो ये जाना सनम, प्यार होता है दीवाना सनम, अब यहाँ से कहाँ जाए हम, तेरी बाहों में मर जाए हम.
But nice.
Very nice, Mihir. And as a 90s kid, I am very, very happy to hear, very, very happy to hear someone so much younger than me singing this song. So it makes me very happy.
That was a very good choice, Mihir. Thank you for singing that song. And I just pasted the YouTube link for that Lata Mangeshkar live show. If you please copy it down, and if you want, you can listen to it later.
Anybody else want to say anything about Lata Mangeshkar?
So we are almost coming to an end of this conversation. I hope you all enjoyed. And Aisha, do you want to quickly show how you used to do your riyaz? The morning riyaz?
Sure, yeah, I can, I'm not sure which part you're referring to, but yeah, I can do something. Huh?
Sare ga ga re sare sa.
Pelu Alanka
Palta Aisha.
Oh, yeah, my favorite.
Sagarema. Slowly first start the slow version and then go into the
Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa ga re ma ga re sa re ma ga pa ma ga re ga pa ma ga da pa ma ga pa ni da pa ni da sa ni da pa sa da ni pa da ni sa ni pa da ma pa da ni da ma pa ga ma pa ga ma re ga ma re ga sa re ga ma So I just do that like 50 times and then I'm good. Yeah. So
I
that's.
think Vande Mataram.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
My request.
So Dad's request is that I sing Vande Mataram.
Lata Mangeshkar's version.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, there are multiple multiple versions of Vande Mataram. One is the I think it's early 2000s, or I don't know. It's a more recent version, but this one in particular is from the movie Anand Mat, and that is, I believe, from the 40s or
19. It was 1956. It was the movie had Prithviraj Kapoor and Geeta Bali.
She has it by heart. She has the encyclopedia.
yes.
So this version is composed by, I think, Hemant Kumar, and it is from movie Vande Mataram.
Anand Math.
I mean, it's movie from Anand Math,
Yeah.
which was the original novel. And I think we definitely talk about this in class. Vande Mataram is mostly in Sanskrit and a little bit in Bengali. So, I mean in Bangla. So, Isha, go for it.
Yes, so
Sorry, Pranaji and Prithviji, you guys know Bangla better. Go ahead, Isha.
okay. And one additional thing, this is in Rag Bhairavi actually.
Yes.
So I'll sing the Ara Ora of Rag Bhairavi first, and then I'll sing Vande Mataram part of it. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. Vande Mataram, 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 Vande Mataram. Sujalam Sufalam Maliyaj Shitalam Shasya Shamala Mataram Vande. Sujalam Sufalam Maliyaj Shitalam Shasya Shamala Mataram Vande. Mataram Vande 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 Mataram. सप्त कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद करने निसप्त कोटि पुजैद कर कर वाले. सप्त कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद करने निसप्त कोटि पुजैद कर कर वाले. कबलक नवयत बोले बहुबल धरणीं नमामि धरणीं रिपुदल वारिणीं मातरं वन्दे Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. So part of this also was not in Rag Bhairavi, so you might have heard some Shuddha swars in there as well, but it's based in Rag Bhairavi. And this is also sung by Lata Mangeshkar.
Okay, so I think it's time to close. We would look forward for to more such sessions, because it's not just important to learn music. I think it's very important to relate to it and make sense out of it. So we, for this family, for us, all of you are our big family, big part of our family, and we will continue to work with you, continue to bring this kind of discussions to you. And in future, we would wish that you also participate and you also share your ideas. So, and just like Vande Mataram is Isha's favorite song, Kuhu Kuhu is Ira's favorite song. Her other favorite song is from movie Kohinoor, sung by Muhammad Rafi. So maybe next time we'll have Ira sing the entire Kuhu Kuhu Bole Koyal. She does a wonderful job in that song. Okay. So we'll wrap up for today, and we will see you soon. There is one more urgent announcement, but I will send it out in the in WhatsApp group. We have some family emergency, so we may have to cancel classes for a couple of days. But as soon as it's finalized, I'll send it out. Okay, and see you all next week. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you for the lovely presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We ended now. We really fail up to